Well, would you look at that? Isn't that just a beautiful building? Now, I'm not one to, toot my horn or anything like that. I mean, most of the time when I'm building this stuff, I really have no idea what I'm doing. I just kind of look at some reference photos and hope for the best in a creative world. I've put a little stream in here. This will make sense, in maybe another episode or two. We'll come across that again later. I am, in fact, very, very proud of this build. The choices of blocks and everything, the way I must admit, I came across a few real bad issues with it when I was designing it. It went through quite a few different iterations. And you might notice as well that there is a very obvious mistake with this face in particular, and that is the fact that it's a 2-block center. This mainly came about from the fact that I wanted to build this, obviously with odd numbers, but then this face here, this one here, is 5. This one's 6. So that makes 11. And the other side, is, like I say, is 11 as well. This is 11 across. But that inherently makes this then an even number, and I suppose there's probably something I could have done. Maybe I could have sunk in 1 block from this side or something to try and make it fit, but I don't know. I just didn't like the idea of that. I wanted this entire side here to be flat. Not flush and flat, but obviously I've got a little bit of depth to it, but I didn't want the actual building itself to jut out or anything like that. I just wanted it kind of be a little bit more smooth than that. So at the top here, instead of having a single block, we actually have 2 stairs back to back. It kind of gives the same vibe. It looks okay. And I think if I hadn't noticed it, maybe you guys wouldn't have noticed. I don't know. But either way, I still think it looks great, and I'm very, very happy with it. Now, as you can see, the style of this is going to be very much in keeping with the rest of the builds that I'm going to be putting all around here. And that is a kind of medieval, Tudor-y kind of vibe. So with this, you can see at the bottom, we've got the stone. I kind of added a little bit of texture in, some mossy stone bricks and things like that as well to kind of add a little bit of texture. And then at the top here, we've got this kind of thatched, crossed, almost kind of black and white. Again, that kind of Tudorish sort of style, that very old school kind of stuff, and it's very old English, let's put it that way. Of course, we've got the A-frame, and then we've also got the actual roof itself, which is orange, which is acacia. When, looking at some of the reference photos, it's actually not that far off. Acacia, actually suits it really, really well, and I was surprised just how well some of these colours went together. Normally, this is not something that I would have ordinarily done. I mean, you've got dark oak, there's a bit of spruce knocked in there, obviously there's stone at the bottom, and then acacia. It's not really something I would have normally done. So, and then of course I've textured it with a little bit of jungle wood, put some glow lichen on there as well to kind of give it a little bit more texture as well. And yeah, I think it's turned out pretty damn good. Now you might be asking yourself, what exactly is this build going to be for? And that is a very good question, because one of the things that you need early game, and later game to be fair, is villagers. And they're a pain in the ass to work with. So rather than just going off to a random village and just getting a load of them and sticking them in cells, I'm actually going to create my own villager breeder. And that is the setup that we have here. So this guy's currently in bed because it is night time now, or at least the sun is setting. So he's got the farmer profession, and there's a bit of a farm area for him to grow his crops. And then we're actually going to get another villager in here to complete the set so they can make more babies, which then they will eventually fall down through this hole here because there's trapdoors there, and they're going to try and get to these beds. So they're just going to fall straight down here into this water stream and then fall into this 1 block. Now this is a design that I've used before. It's one of my own making. I'm very proud of it. And like I say, we have the villagers up there and they're going to make a baby. They're going to try and see the beds that are up there. They're going to fall down into this water stream, come to this 1 little block here. And now the great thing about this design is the fact that when they're in this 1 block here, their hitboxes will actually come outside of these glass blocks. Only for the adults, not the kids. Always thinking. So then all I need to do is hit this button here, a minecart falls out of the dispenser into here, it gets pushed along all about here, and it will pick up one of the villagers from here, because only 1 will fit in a minecart, and then it sends it out of here. And then from there, I can send it wherever I want. You see, I'm not as dumb as I look. But that brings us to the problem that I have next, which is getting another villager in here, because I got this villager from the village that is over there somewhere. You can't really see it from here. You can't really see it from here. But there is no more in that village. So I had a great idea. Why not make this into an actual thing? Let's kind of go all out here. And rather than just go to another village and get one, which we can do quite easily. We could probably just grab a happy ghast and wander to another village somewhere, grab a boat, stick one in, and transport it back. Dead easy. No, that's too easy. I don't really want to do that. I want to do something that's hard for no reason whatsoever. And that means finding a zombie villager from somewhere. Now, there's plenty of caves below, so we're going to go down there, find one, and somehow bring him to the surface, and then cure him, and then stick him up there. That's my next job, so let's go and gear up. Yeah, like I say, it's something a bit different. We only need the one, because I already have one villager. I just wanted to do something a bit different to get in the second one, instead of just taking the easy route all the time.
I think, for me, personally, I prefer an easy route, because I don't like villagers. I hate them. I think it's nuisance. So... Although the zombies are just flying around like fireworks right now.
Well, it has just been bonfire night, so why not?
Yeah.
So, me and Jen took to the caves that night, and we were really trying to find a zombie villager, but unfortunately no such luck. We found every other mob, including Endermen, baby zombies, but no such luck trying to find a zombie villager. Nevertheless, this was a great opportunity to get some XP, because that's one thing that we are sorely in need of right now. And to be honest, we could probably do with the target practice. I nearly died on a couple of occasions, mainly due to the zombie reinforcements, but also those baby zombies. They really get you. And then, would you Adam and Eve it, right at the start of the second night, I find this little bugger. So I managed to lure him back to the base and attempt to put him into this bit of a holding pen. Obviously this was supposed to be for horses, but I did put the last villager in there, so it kind of seems somewhat fitting. Immediately after that, I realised that I was very much ill-equipped and needed to go and get some weakness potions. Now, unfortunately, I didn't have one of the ingredients, which was a brown mushroom, but Jen did, so I went to her base to go and get it. Some of you may already see where this is going, and, you know, this was one of those really bad mistakes. You can hear it on my voice. Just listen to this. I don't know if this is going to work on a child. Oh, he's despawned. Oh, no. I forgot to put him in a boat. Ah, wow, that is me being an idiot. And I also got phantoms as well, so it was back to the grind, and unfortunately I had just about as much luck as I did before, where just absolutely nothing for about 3 nights I think I was out here for. Again, nearly dying several times over, but unfortunately that's just the way that the RNG goes in this game sometimes. They are relatively rare spawns, I suppose, but unfortunately this is just one of those times where you've got to persevere, you've got to keep going, and eventually the odds should start stacking in your favour with a bit of luck. And I don't think it was until about the 3rd or 4th night or something like that that eventually I did find one, but this idiot here forgot to hit record, and unfortunately I didn't actually get the footage of me finding this guy, but eventually I did put him in a boat, and I name tagged him just to be sure, you know, just to be on the safe side, because I really did not want this guy despawning again. I managed to hit him with a potion of weakness and feed him a golden apple, and now we have a new villager. So all that's left to do now is to get him into the breeder, get him a new profession, and hope that they start breeding. And yeah, I can use all these villagers for all the different farms that I've got coming up. They are going to be very useful, not just for things like librarians and armorers and things like that, but I also have another project that I'm going to need these guys for coming up later in this episode, so please do stick around for that. And there we have it, guys. Our second villager is cured and in. He's taken up the profession. Them two have been sending food backwards and forwards, which means they have been breeding, and breeding they have been doing. That's quite a few villagers down there, and we now need to put them to good use. So that brings us on to our next point. Unfortunately, the build that I have in mind for these guys, specifically when it comes to the librarians, is something that I'm going to be putting over there, but it requires some very heavy materials, stuff that I can't quite get a hold of just yet, so that's something I'll be potentially tackling in the next episode. But for now, I still need these guys, I still need the librarians, so I'm going to have to create a temporary structure down there somewhere. It's not going to look good, it's going to look pretty damn ugly, but it's going to be functional. And to be perfectly honest, the main one that I need, the main librarian, is mending. And I'm really, really hoping that I can get a decent trade for it. I don't have a lot of emeralds at the moment, so I'm going to have to get a couple of others. I don't know, like armorers or something like that, so I can maybe trade a little bit of iron. I need more iron as it stands. So there's a lot of different bits of hurdles to kind of jump through in order to get all this sorted. But of course, I also need to get them over to this potential new structure. And that's why I'm taking up all these rails from when I got the villager from the village over there. Now, of course, mending is incredibly useful. As you can tell from my armor here, I do go through quite a lot of durability because I have a tendency of just kind of wading in, you know, head first, shoot first, ask questions later kind of deal. And most of the time, the other guys on the server don't really like that approach. They like a much more careful, structured, thought about plan. No, I just go wading straight in. But it does mean that I go through a lot of durability. So mending is going to be my friend. And there we go. That is 5 stacks of rails that will be more than sufficient to get the villagers from the breeder over to this new structure that I'm going to be building. Speaking of which, you may have noticed that I have a lot of oak logs in my inventory, and there is a very good reason for that. As I said before, this is not going to be a pretty build. It's just going to look very, very basic, and it's just a temporary structure just to get some of these villagers in there, get them trading, get their trades locked in. And then once I've built this other structure that is going approximately there, I will be destroying this structure. I don't want this to be here any longer than it needs to be. So yeah, somewhere around here, we're just going to start building. Like I say, this is going to be very ugly indeed. Now, as always, I mock something up in a test world, mainly just to get the proportions right. I just want to make sure this is housing around about 10 villagers, but with easy access, and yeah, it should be relatively straightforward. So I think we're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And then the cells are going to be here like this. So we're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and another 5 on the other side. Relatively easy, straightforward. Of course, I will need to light it up ever so slightly because I don't want mobs spawning in here because that would be an absolute disaster. And this is basically it. Obviously, I need to get the lecterns in, but essentially this is all it's going to be. It kind of looks like the very first build that everybody makes when they first start playing Minecraft. So throw back to that. Admittedly, my very first structure was a dirt hut. And that was actually on Bedrock, believe it or not. I actually started on Bedrock and then moved over to Java. Then again, I was a little bit of a latecomer to Minecraft. I actually only started during the lockdown, the first lockdown in 2020. I started playing maybe around April, May of sort of time. And I started off on Bedrock. I saw some videos online. I think it was Mumbo was one of the first ones I ever saw. And I thought, actually, you know what? This doesn't look like a kid's game at all. And yeah, the rest, as they say, is history. So, as I say, this is pretty much the entire structure. Dead simple, nothing fancy whatsoever. I've obviously got to put the lecterns in, so I'm going to go and do that now. And then I will be back with you guys as soon as I'm ready to put the villagers in. And as you can see, we've got this track in now, all these rails go straight back to the breeder. This is going to make things so much easier getting them in. Because if I've done this right, and I haven't actually tested this yet, so you guys are going to get this firsthand. This is going to be interesting to say the least. All I should do is push this button. Minecart gets dispensed, goes all the way around here, picks up one of these villagers, hopefully an adult, not a child, but we'll see how that goes, and then straight off around there. As it goes over this detector rail, it should then put another one on here. So, nerve-wracking. Let's do it. Huh, that doesn't do that. Okay, I need to put one on here first. That makes more sense. Okay, go. He's picked it up. He's good. He's good. That's dispensed another one on there. So that worked. It is just kind of unfortunate this is so far away. In he goes. And I've just thought, actually... Oh, no, I did. Yeah, right. Oh, it's a good job I put those lecterns there. I'm wondering if you've come through there, it'll just come straight back out again. Oh, never mind. Right, we got it right. And that means that we can block this up. And then we can move it, all of this, over to the next one. Now, unfortunately, this does mean that there is going to be a lot of backwards and forwards. I have to keep going back up there, back down here, back up there, so on, to change all this out. But it's going to be worth it. And hopefully we'll have that mending book in no time at all. I'll join back with you guys as soon as I've got all these in. Wish me luck. No. Okay, so instantly we had a disaster. There was a baby there instead. which isn't ideal because I've had issues with this in the past where they've grown up inside the cell and then for whatever reason they've suffocated in the wall and died. So maybe if I leave him in the cart, it might keep him straight enough to grow up inside the cell and not touch the walls. We'll see how that goes. I don't know. But anyway, let's crack on.
One eternity later.
And as I so often do, I got a little bit carried away with myself. As you can see behind me, I've done this medium-sized melon farm. Obviously manual, I've not done anything redstone-based just yet. But the main thing is this little area. And yes, this is ugly as sin, I know. And here we have all of the villagers. So we've got 5 librarians on this side and then 5 farmers on this side. And as I said, I got a little bit ahead of myself. I've got Feather Falling for 18 emeralds, Silk Touch for 11, Mending for 16, Efficiency 5 for 34, and Fortune 3 for 11. Now, obviously, the Efficiency 5 was a little bit on the expensive side, but, you know, it is what it is. Feather Falling 4, it did have 4 on there, but I think I'm using a resource pack where the fonts changed, so it's not quite fit on there properly, so I might be able to just... There we go, perfect. So these guys are going to give me a really good start. Obviously, the main one that I wanted was Mending, so I'm really happy I've got this. And 16 emeralds is a little bit on the expensive side. I mean, I tend to normally go for about 10 or 12, but it is what it is. Now, the build that I'm going to be doing to put all these guys in eventually is going to be going here. And believe me when I say it is going to be a pretty large build. It's something I've built in a test world, and I've brought the schematic in, I've checked it out, and it fits. I am going to have to do a fair amount of terraforming to make it fit, but nonetheless, it's going to look absolutely amazing when it's done. Again, without kind of blowing my own trumpet, because I really don't like doing that, but I must admit, I am really proud of how far I've come as a builder just in this short few months. Obviously, that one up there is just by far one of my favorite builds I've ever done. And like I say, the build that's going on this hill behind me is no exception. I really can't wait for you guys to see it. But unfortunately, that's going to have to wait until next episode. However, for now, we need to move on to our next issue. Now, in order for me to build this, like I say, I'm going to have to excavate and terraform a fair bit of that. Now, I really don't want to do that without a beacon of some sort. So that means I'm going to need to go to the Nether and get a bunch of Wither Skeleton Skulls. I already have 1, but I would probably like to maybe get 5 more so that I make it up to 6. I can get 2 beacons out of that. That'd be, you know, the absolute ideal. But unfortunately, on top of that, that means I also need a bunch of iron. So I'm going to need to build myself an iron farm. Once again, I have come up with something in a test world and it works perfectly. I'm actually really happy with it. It's actually one of the very first times I've ever created a farm and then put a building around it. So this is a bit of a new one for me. I'm having a bit of trouble though, finding out where to put it. I think it was going to go behind me around about there or so, just the top of my head, around that sort of area. I'm not entirely sure if that's the best place for it. Maybe over there, maybe up on that hill. Maybe back further over there, I don't know. But either way, I think this is about prime time for us to jump into a little time lapse and we're going to get this build done. Let's go, guys. Yeah, I've had to turn this villager breeder off. I was kind of getting worried that there might be causing a bit of lag. I'm not too sure, but either way, that's plenty of villagers. I really don't need any more. But if we turn our attention to the latest build, which is the iron farm and this kind of slightly industrial, I guess, looking kind of build, I wanted something that was a little bit more run down looking. So you've got this stripped spruce and then some of the light grey wool. So on the actual like residential ones that look a lot more clean, you got the white wool, which looks really, really nice. And then this one's a little bit more dirty looking almost. I mean, with that build especially, you've got a lot of contrast with the dark oak. So then when it came to this one, I was thinking something, it looks a little bit more desaturated, which is kind of the vibe that I was going for, and I think it's turned out pretty good. But if we head on inside, you can see that we've got this polished deep slate and chiseled tough bricks for the flooring in like a checkered pattern. I thought it looked quite nice. And at the moment, this iron farm is really producing. I'm really happy with how this has been in just a relatively short space of time. So if we head upstairs, got this little setup here, we can see that we have our zombie holding a wooden sword. It took about 3 or 4 attempts to try and find a zombie that would actually hold on to an item, which was interesting. And for anyone who doesn't know, I really enjoy Supernatural as a series, so... And I've lost that piece of glass. This guy is in fact called Crowley, because I thought that would be a nice little homage. So can I get this glass block back? There we go. Easy. The reason why I've called him Crowley, other than the fact that it's Supernatural, is that he's going to be torturing these guys for the rest of their lives, which is very much in keeping with what Crowley used to do. And then, of course, I've had to make all this entire area around here spawn-proof, so that the only place that the iron golems will spawn is on this platform here. And then, relatively simple from there, they spawn in, they travel down the water stream and into the lava. It's kind of an adaptation of the Wattles design. That's kind of what I've taken as the inspiration. Now, Wattles was doing his in a slightly different way, so that each of the villagers were actually in their own cell and they were kind of all separated. I wanted to kind of keep this all together. I wanted to keep it a little bit more compact so that I could get this building around it a little bit easier, but it still works. I must admit, building has never really been my forte. Ever since I first started playing Minecraft, I was never a really good builder. I just didn't have the eye for it. I was really struggling. But, you know, over the years, Jen's given me quite a few pointers and just ways of being able to start the build. And then from there, you kind of adapt it into your own style. So I'm really happy with how this build and now this build has turned out. And I cannot wait for you guys to see the one that's going over here. It is absolutely incredible. Definitely going to be one of my best builds to date. And as you can see off camera, I also managed to get myself a little bit of terraforming done. I just put this little bit of a stream in with a pond at the bottom, decorated it with a little bit of detailing, nothing too major, we've just got the mossy cobblestone. But yeah, that's loud. We've got some bricks, some regular cobblestone, all that kind of stuff, and it just adds a nice little bit of texture to an otherwise relatively boring area, and I think it's turned out pretty nice. So I'm again happy with that. Slowly but surely getting better with my terraforming, so I'm really happy with how this has turned out too. But with that being said, that is all I have time for in this episode. Thank you so much for watching. I really do hope you guys have enjoyed it. We managed to get 2 builds done, which I'm really, really proud of, and a little bit of terraforming. Not only that, we've made a start in our villages, so really happy with the progress of this episode. Thank you once again, guys, and I'll see you all in the next episode. Bye for now.